Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of ValueCast. We're doing another exciting Meet the Founder, or founders, as you can see in the screen in front of me. I'm very, very passionate about working with people who want to make a difference and want to make a change, and also people who I find very trusting and have just got the right work ethic. And I've got to know these two gentlemen over the last few months. And I really like them, and I really like the product they're designing. And I thought it made perfect sense to share, their experiences so far, what they're planning to do, and just get to know them a little bit more, just outside of what they do from a technology perspective. So, I'd like to welcome Ivan and Victor. So, guys, thank you for joining ValueCast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
No problem at all. It's a pleasure for me. Pleasure for me. I very enjoy our chats and working together. It's super exciting. So we're here to obviously talk about you guys and talk about your product. But before we get into that, maybe whichever of you want to jump off first, maybe a little introduction, who you are, how you got to where you are today.
All right. Well, Victor, do you want to start with who you are, or should I?
Yeah, so I'm Victor. Hello, everyone. I'm the co-founder at Tendero. I am the technical co-founder, so I take care of the day-to-day development, the product, and all of that is what I do. I have a background in business economics and computer science, so that's kind of where that fits in. And yeah, Ivan came to me one day and asked me if Tendero is possible, and here we are.
Great.
Well, my name is Ivan. I'm not the technical co-founder, as you clearly can see. I came up with the idea of Tendero through my experience in public procurement, and I just one day went up to Victor, asked him, "Is it possible?" And Victor said yes, and as he said, we've embarked on that journey ever since. And a little bit about Tendero, what we do. Simply, we simplify government contracting for suppliers using AI and centralizing all contracts across the European Union onto one platform, which does not sound like it's revolutionary, but it truly doesn't exist in this form. So yeah, we're kind of pioneers in that sense.
Great stuff. Great stuff. And why, talk to me a bit about your background in public procurement. What sort of motivated you to, get in touch with Victor and start thinking about Tendero?
Well, my experience was mostly during COVID, so it was masks, gloves, gowns, PPE, basically. And I've always known about government spending, and I always knew that it was a lot. And I thought to myself during a course at university, political economy, what if I take a look at public procurement? What if I just see how it works in the European Union in comparison to how it looks in the United States? And I came across a really fragmented system, and I immediately knew there is a lot of work to be done here to make this simpler. So I just asked Victor, is it possible to apply AI? At the time, ChatGPT had come out. And I was just wondering if you could use that technology to build something else, but not exactly ChatGPT, but something like it, using it as a motor to build a different type of vehicle for a different type of purpose. And yeah, Victor just said it's possible. And ever since that day, we have formed 3 teams. We've come a year and a half into development. We have tried to launch our product 2 times, failed twice. On the 3rd time, we hit the lucky charm. So yeah, we managed to do it this year. And we're quite happy with how it's going. What about you, Victor?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, technology had showed us that everything is possible. We were in the hype of the moment when AI really was everywhere. Everyone was writing about it. Everyone was finding out what it can do, its limits. And that's kind of where we started building the concept, understanding what can be done, what can't be done. And since then, we've also pivoted the product a little bit. We've understood better where we can help and where maybe it's not possible to help. And yeah, as Ivan said, this year, finally, we managed to put something together to fix all of the Lego pieces. And yeah, we're here now.
That's great. It's really interesting because I love when so obviously I know a little bit about your story and where you started. This isn't a concept you just created over a white piece of paper over the last 3 months. You've been working on this for a long time, and you've been self-funding this for a long time, right? It's not. It seems like the way you've approached it is a very smart way. Like how have you found that first sort of year and a half, 2 years, getting to the position you are now?
I could not hear the question. Could you just repeat that, please?
Yeah, no worries. It was more just on the basis. How have you found getting to this position where you are now? Because you've as we've discussed before, right? You've not taken funding. You've self-funded all of this yourselves to get to this position. It must have been a very, very difficult and interesting couple of years to get where you are now. So I've rephrased it, but in a slightly different way.
No, I understood it. It was just acoustically, I could not hear. There was some noise here on my end. Well, how have we self-funded this? First of all, no investor actually fit us properly that we could agree on working together with them. So we thought we can do it ourselves. We started in the beginning, as I told you, once upon a time, on basically just reselling certain things that we could find on the internet just to get a little bit more cash. And then we worked some extra jobs as well to get in some runway. But at the minute, we've created such a formation. Even Alex Ferguson would be jealous of us. We have the perfect team. For every position, we have the right person on the job, and that's what allows us to continue this way.
And one thing I would like to add there regarding why we chose to go the way we went. There is this common culture in startups around MVPs and how you should release quickly. We actually are of the opposite opinion, and I think Ivan can expand on this better. I think he understands it really to the core.
Yeah. So there is this MVP culture where investors tell you, oh, just put together an MVP and we'll have a chat. You put together some MVP that works halfway. They tell you, okay, now get some traction. You get some traction, they tell you get some more traction. And it's always like a game of cat and mouse. It's never ending. It's a vicious cycle. Yeah. And why we chose not to go down that route, we found ourselves in an industry that is based on precision, where the slightest mistake can mean the biggest of problems. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we chose to approach it with care and with precision. We're doing it properly. We're not just releasing something that we wrapped with ChatGPT. We have a whole system and architecture. I mean, that part Victor can better explain of how it works technically, but yeah. We have truly focused on being like above 98% in our precision. So we try not to make any mistakes at all, because in public procurement, even a comma can lead to huge problems later on.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that's what really interests me about what you guys are doing, because public procurement is not an easy world to live in. The regulation, the policy, the fines you would get instigated with if you did something wrong, and also from a reputational stake. So that's pretty good. But what has kept you motivated over these last sort of 2 years to keep going? What is it that's really driven? Because it's not easy. Like I know from personal experience, it's not easy.
I would say I don't even know how to answer your question to the fullest extent, but we had the drive in us, and I think we found a really good match of personalities and skills, and it maybe helps the fact that we are friends from before we started Tendero. We've also worked together before. We know each other, and so that's kind of helped. I think the situation it made things a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think the fact you've known each other a while is critical. Sorry, Ivan.
No, I was just saying, like, I honestly don't know how to answer this question. What's kept me motivated? I've been living from day to day, you know, every day is a whole roller coaster and a whole adventure, and the next day is even more of an adventure. So maybe it's that part that I like about startups. Every day brings something new. It's not dry, it's not the same, but it's also not meant for everyone. There's a lot of disappointment that you must learn how to handle.
Definitely.
And I think tennis taught me that quite well, to be honest. You can't win every point.
Wow, as we've discussed, I'm quite a sporting person myself, and it's so interesting that you do, if you don't go through failures and hard times, um, you really can't ground yourself for the future correctly. And the amount of times I've lost cricket matches, I've went to swimming tournaments and failed, and had to come back and rebuild myself because I just spent 3 months training for this event and I got nowhere. It's interesting how sport has quite a solid reflection. Tennis, I was never good at, Ivan. So, I can probably hold my hand up to say I had to give that one up. But no, that's
It's
cool.
all about how you handle defeat.
It is, yeah. It is definitely. If you've not been through defeat before, you've not set yourself up correctly. So the fact that you've had to go through that process is a big thing. Let's talk a little bit about the business problems that you see, though. So you've now got a product that's live, which is fantastic. You've obviously done a lot of market research around public procurement and the challenge with tenders. But what is it that really made you think this is going to work? This is a product that I can bring value to governments and supply chains.
Well, in the business case, right? Like instead of reading through a tender, which takes like 3 to 4 hours on the supplier end, right? Then to summarize it and then to pick out the most important points that make go no go decisions, you lose hours, sometimes days. It can even turn into weeks. So that's where we thought we could apply AI the best way, because we thought, okay, it's not good to apply to decisions. It shouldn't make decisions for a human, but it should help you make a decision. And if you can go through it faster, you'll need less time and you'll save a lot of money. And you will be able to bid on more and more and more contracts if you speed up the part of contract analysis as well as contract discovery. Those are the two parts we do. And obviously market analysis.
Yeah, I think a very good explanation of this is Ivan's personal example. He was telling me when we started this out that when they were in COVID times doing a tender, they spent about 2 weeks, if I'm not wrong, just analyzing a tender, just in the end to realize that they are not compliant or that they are missing a certain requirement, which completely rendered all the work useless. So we believe that a tool that would speed up that process and would hand you a clear checklist of what you need to be eligible is where we really bring the value.
It was 3 of us working on that. It was 3 of us working on that one tender in Germany. It was 2 weeks we spent only to realize we're not eligible at all. And that's where I realized, okay, maybe this repetitive type of tasks is what AI can bring the most value on. And yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. I was just gonna say that.
No, you're okay. Don't worry. I think our connection is a bit up and down, so we might jump over each other, but let's not worry about that. Yeah, I've done it myself, Jen. So I've for many years before, in my previous company, going through, well, not even just public tenders, even private tenders, but the public tenders we had to go through in the UK were very extensive, very long. And you start to look at some of these questions and think, hold on a minute, I've just spent 3 hours looking at a section that it doesn't make sense or is it relevant? And then you suddenly get down to the pricing points and the pricing structure and go, oh, geez, now I've got to rework it because, the way all these sections come together, and it can almost turn you off of wanting to do them. What about the access to tenders? Because that's always been one of the biggest issues for me when I've responded or been searching. You've got multiple government websites or you've got multiple portals that that you're trying to monitor and get information from, and it becomes very difficult. So it's not even just about responding to the tender. It's actually about identifying where they are, where they're coming from, which websites do I need to go to? Like, did you look at tackling that piece of the problem as well?
Yeah, go ahead, Ivan. This is your type of question.
So yeah, we've actually looked at tackling that, and we are tackling it. Obviously, we're expanding, but to get to the point, we have a free part of our platform. It's non-commercial, and the reason it's non-commercial is because we don't believe in charging people for identifying and finding tenders. We believe it's public information, and it should be readily and easily accessible to everyone. So anyone can go on Tendero.eu, sign up, and look at tenders across the European Union. What we try is to put all these fragmented sources, so say not just in one country, but all the European countries together onto one platform. That's really the end goal. And we mean to keep it free because we believe that's one element where we as citizens of the EU can contribute of uniting the European Union hands-on by ourselves as well, not just waiting for some politicians to write a few words and make some new legislation and reform the EU. We're actually trying to contribute to it. So, I mean, that's why you can see on my desk an EU flag. I find it very important.
It is important, because that's a challenge, and especially when you look at it from a supplier perspective, you've got operations across many different countries, many different types of teams that may need to access such information. So it's a good call out. Obviously, though, that's the free side of it, and if a business wants to take it to the next level, then they've got options to do that with you, right? To simplify how they're actually managing the RFI and responding to an RFI and all those things. So, but it's a good thing to do, and I like the fact that is in your core motivation that I see is to help people, right? To simplify, to make people's lives more enjoyable, and stop wasting time on having to do administration, which is around the true value of AI, right? Which is augmenting, not automating everything. It's augmenting that process.
Yeah, that's the exact same mentality that we've got. We want to make a support tool rather than a deciding tool. That's at the core of our technological development.
We want to make business. We want to make business in the public sector from Tallinn to Lisbon easy for everyone. That's I think that was like the intro sentence to our first business plan. It's written a while ago.
And also the most important part of a bid in the end of the day is the commercial side of the bid. So if you can make a bid feasible for the company, and we want to give companies the opportunity to fully focus on that and have the bureaucracy in their side view without having to waste time and resources on dealing with analyzing requirements or reading documentation.
No, that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to me. It's not, and I can see why the interest in what you're doing is growing, just because it is simplifying. Sometimes products are focused on this is chat about B2B, B2C, whatever, but the core focal point is that you're trying to help different personas in the business world improve how they operate and get more value from what they're doing. And of course, we all need to make money, right? We all need to be able to pay the bills and do all the things that we have to, but that should never remove your core value of what you're trying to do, right? And if you waver from that, it becomes quite difficult. I know that from personal experience. What about I know we sort of did touch a little bit about on obviously, the self-funding piece, and I know that has obviously been a challenge, but what about outside of that, you mentioned you've got a perfect team. You're really happy with your team. You've gone live, but there must have been some really hard points about getting, your organizational structure as a team to that point. Like what other things outside of the self-funding has been the biggest challenge for you to get to where you are?
Yeah, I think finding the right talent is probably one of the toughest things that we've had to do at Tendero. Finding the people that not only have the right skills but also the right mentality to join a startup, because it's not an easy thing. They have to commit. They don't get rewarded straight away, just like we don't. It's a long-term commitment. It's a long-term game. So yeah, we've definitely had some struggles in finding the right team, but I think, as Ivan said, we're quite happy with what we've got now.
Some things, they just somehow fall in place when you're working hard on something, no matter how successful it is in the moment that you're looking at it and trying to perceive the situation. But in the long term, somehow things fall in place. People come across us, we come across them through recommendations, and that's how we formed our team. It took a few attempts. Our very first technical team, we had a very gifted guy who was helping us code the website, as well as another front-end developer. And at one point, the very gifted guy disappeared and the front-end developer didn't know what to do, so he had to leave too. And we had to start all over again. And that happened to us a couple times. So I guess overcoming these challenges is tough, but I think every day brings a new challenge. And it's like about whether you accept the fight or not.
Agreed. I can't disagree with you on that one. Finding the right people is always a challenge. I'm a very trusting person day one. I'll always go with trust first versus needing to build that trust. But sometimes that isn't always the right approach. But if you don't go in with that mentality and then you don't give people the opportunity to prove themselves, you never know. You never know. But the people fit is definitely the biggest one. And yeah, when you've got a small team, it's really hard because you can't have a succession plan, can you? You can't plan for the future because you can't afford to plan for the future. You know what I mean? You sort of need to put so much more emphasis on finding the right people. That's interesting. So from your perspective, then, what do you let's just say you've got two people you've come across. They just put their feet into the entrepreneurial world. They ask you a question. They say, Victor, Ivan, if I was to do something wrong in the next 2 years, what do you think that would be? What mistake do you think I would make? How would you respond to that?
That's
a
a good question.
I would say that
Victor,
mistakes
do you
are
want to go
inevitable.
ahead? I need some time to think.
Sure. I think mistakes in the startup world are inevitable. I think it's quite tough to learn from someone else's mistakes. You have to find your own path, and that comes with challenges and mistakes. So I think we just have to accept that we all have mistakes ahead of us and in our past, and just find the best way to deal with them. That's what I would say. And I think it's impossible to avoid mistakes. As much as you're going to try avoiding mistakes, you're going to find other mistakes in that approach.
I guess try to have if you have a co-founder, try to have a co-founder who has a totally different skill set to you. So the skills you guys have are quite versatile. So even when you make mistakes, you can learn upon them better, rather than just discovering new territory in terms of knowledge. That would be good. But otherwise, yeah, I agree fully with Victor. Mistakes can be avoided. People say smart people learn from other people's mistakes. That's not true. You learn when you feel it on your own skin, and you should be happy to make mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone wants everyone wants perfection. You have this vision of what perfection looks like, but you can't get hung up on achieving that perfection overnight. You can't let that, we all have to, people use the word North Star a lot in business, but you have to know what that is. But yeah, you're gonna trip up hundreds of times to get to it, and you may not even get there, and actually your North Star might be something else by the time you get close to it. So it's that's good advice. So what does the next I've really enjoyed this chat. It's good, and I think it's great for people to understand a bit about you guys and what you're doing. But what does the next 6-12 months look like for you? What's your plans with the business and the product?
So at the minute, we've just launched. It's been the first month. We've launched in different markets: Romania, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Ireland, and we do EU institution tenders. We're planning obviously on completing the free platform where we add all of the EU member states. So yeah, from Tallinn to Lisbon, you will find any contract. I don't know, Finland, Poland, Slovakia, Germany, France, anywhere in the EU. And we're planning to implement new features as well, AI-driven features, such as market intelligence, smart market intelligence that basically tells you all about different contracting authorities, how they've behaved in the past, to whom they've awarded contracts, on what basis. That is one of our next steps. And do we have any more features planned, Victor?
I think in terms of features, that's about it. But in general, our plan now is to get the word out, to get people to find out about Tendero, and see how we can bring value to companies in different industries, from construction to IT to green energy.
We're still trying to find ourselves in the markets we are in.
Yeah, of course. It's still early days. It's early days to the industry, but to you guys, you've been around, many years. But I understand what you're saying. But the most important thing is to also have fun and enjoy yourself, because if you're not doing that, then what the hell are you doing? When I see some founders, I can see they're really struggling and going hard for it. But you should be, and you've actually said this to me in the past. You should be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself, and don't forget about you and your enjoyment as well.
I've been told that by a very successful person who said, Ivan, I forgot to enjoy it along the way, and now I'm 42 and I feel like my life blazed in front of me.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm 49, and I can definitely reflect on having a lot of fun through my career. So hence why I'm still smiling today. Well, look, guys, I really wanted to say thank you for joining me. Best of luck with the next 6 months. It's going to pivot and change a lot based on the fact you've just gone out into the business world. I see some really, really great value that you're going to bring to the procurement industry and public procurement in general. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate the time, and I hope this is going to be a viral episode. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad, for watching.